What's up guys, it's the Cheapster here, back with another Grubhub video, and today we're going to be talking about 12 tips for new drivers. So Grubhub is actually a pretty self-explanatory process. It's really not that complicated. All you're going to do is drive to the restaurant, pick up the order, drive to the person's house, drop off the order. That's all you have to really do, so it's really not that complicated of a thing, but there's a lot of factors involved that can make your day a lot better or a lot worse. Also, those factors will be a big point to if you make a lot of money or if you don't make much that day. So these are 12 tips that should help you guys just get started to try to make your days go as well as possible, and obviously to make as much money as possible. Tip number 1 is to get added on insurance. What a lot of people don't realize is, especially with Grubhub, there is no insurance. So if you were driving and your personal insurance finds out that you got into a wreck that you caused during this time while you were actually working for Grubhub, you will not have coverage from your personal insurance, so you will be totally liable for whatever damage you did. So that Lamborghini you just smashed up is going to be pretty expensive. No joke guys, this could really be a big thing. If you run into a Lamborghini, or not even a Lamborghini, but anything that's just a pretty expensive car, it could come directly down on your pockets that you have to pay for it. So do not take that risk. Go ahead and just make sure you get car insurance before you ever do your first order. Also, even if you say you want to take the risk and you're just going to drive anyway, or maybe you're going to try to lie and say that you were not driving for Grubhub if you use your personal insurance can still find out, and they can say that they're going to cancel your policy. This actually happened to me. I was driving at the beginning not realizing I needed insurance, and my personal policy reached out and said they were going to cancel it if I didn't get commercial insurance. You can also get added on business insurance to work for a delivery company, so you don't have to get full-on commercial insurance. That's expensive. I know I use Progressive and they have a policy just for Grubhub drivers, so it's just a little added portion to my insurance, and it really didn't raise my rates much at all. For my car, that's a 2014, I think I only pay like $20 extra a month. Tip number 2 is to get familiar with the app and the process of taking orders and doing them. I will actually do a video in the future that I'll link here that'll be going over the driver app and how to use it. Tip number 3 is to learn your region map really well. This is a pretty important one because you want to make sure that you know your map for accepting orders, to know if they're going to be a good distance or if it's going to be too far, but it's also a good thing to know so that you stay away from dangerous areas. If there are dangerous areas in your city, which most cities there are at least some dangerous areas, you want to know those to make sure that you can stay away from, especially at night if it's not a safe time to be working there. This is also important to know your region map for parking, because if you work in a big city, you definitely want to make sure you know how the parking situation is, so you don't end up paying like, $40 for parking in a garage or something to just do an order that's like $12 or something. So just make sure you know that and try to figure out where the free parking is and stuff like that. Tip number 4 is to not carry money. Now what I actually do is I leave my wallet at home and I just bring the things I need. So I just bring my driver's license, a credit card to be able to get gas and buy anything else I would need like food, and then I bring my Grubhub card with me, which is also important to remember to bring your Grubhub card every time you go, because you wouldn't want to get an order where it's a really good order but you have to have your Grubhub card and you're like 20 minutes from home or something and you can't do it. But what I do is I just leave my Grubhub card in the car so that I have it all the time. Tip number 5 is to make sure you always have a phone charger in your car. You should also probably just make sure you always have your phone plugged in whenever you're back in the car. If you're listening to music through it, then you'll probably just do that anyway. It just really helps so that you make sure you're continuously charging your phone, because it will wear down your battery pretty quickly when you're doing Grubhub. And you do not want to get a dead phone in the middle of an order, because that would be extremely stressful and I don't even know what you do. Also, you want to make sure you keep your car gassed up enough. It doesn't have to be fully gassed up every time you go out, but just make sure you have it gassed up enough to be able to do a few orders where if you can't get to a gas station right away, then you'll be fine. Tip number 6 is just to schedule when you can. Some people say that having a schedule doesn't actually matter. I really haven't seen that when I drive. It seems like having a schedule is pretty important to me getting orders or not. So in my opinion, obviously the most time that you can get scheduled that you know that you're going to be able to work that, the better. But also scheduled times just open up throughout the day anyway, so you can just always keep going back and checking to see if schedules are available. Tip number 7 is to keep a mileage log for your taxes, and this is any mileage from the time you left to go do an order, or even if you just left to go drive to a hot spot. If it's specifically you're driving for the business of trying to work for Grubhub, just track that mileage. Unless you're driving any personal trips in between that time, it's all going to be tax deductible, and this will save you a lot in taxes at the end of the year. A lot of people don't realize how big these deductions deductions actually are, and they are very big because actually you're going to have to pay self-employed tax on top of your normal tax when you do this work, and when you track that business mileage, it deducts against both of those because it's considered a business deduction. Tip number 8 is to stay close to hotspots. Now, I don't think this one is necessarily a huge thing because usually what you're going to find is sometimes the hotspots are just crowded with people, and then if you're in a spot that's like kind of busy but by the hotspot but not in the hotspot, you might actually get more orders because all those people are over there and they're not in the area that you're at now. So that means there's sometimes where you might actually get pretty big orders when they're not in the hotspot areas. Tip number 9 is just to always use your GPS even if you know where you're going, because sometimes what can happen is it could be like a Taco Bell and you think, oh, you know, it's that Taco Bell, but then you realize, oh wait, it's actually a different Taco Bell. Or it could be one ice cream place and then it's actually the other ice cream place. Okay, this actually happened to me. I drove to the wrong ice cream place because I just did not think correctly and went to the wrong store. And I've had things like this happen where there's a place called O'Charlie's by me, but there's also a place called Charlie's Subs. So I've gone to the wrong one at times to try to pick up orders. So it can just always be a good idea just to put it in your GPS and always make sure you're going to the right place. Tip number 10 is to make sure that the food is always secure in your car before driving. Especially drinks, you want to make sure that it's secure. This is a thing that you will notice is one of the biggest hassles of doing Grubhub, because there's not really a great place to put them in the car usually. You can set them on the seat next to you. If it's a lot of drinks, it's kind of a pain. You can put them in your cup holders, but I actually may just recommend getting the Grubhub drink carrier. I don't have it myself, but I really want it and I'm probably gonna buy it soon. Literally just an hour ago while I was doing an order before filming this video, I just spilt Coke all over my seat because the Taco Bell worker didn't put the lid on all the way, so it was tipped and it was actually spilling everywhere and I didn't know till I already got there. So this will just be something you kind of have to deal with. It's a little bit of a pain to deal with these drinks, but just try to make sure as much as you can that everything's secure and it's not spilling. You also may have to deal with soups. Tip number 11 is just to work a lot right at the beginning because you don't really know what times and what days are going to be good. So you're kind of going to be figuring all that stuff out. So just really try to use like your first month of working to work a bunch and then try to look back at it and look for patterns to see what days was it better, what times was it better. You can also use your previous earnings from weeks to look back at specific days or times to see if they were busier and you can see a pattern. Of course, this isn't an exact science. Things always change. There's going to be holidays. There's going to be all these different things that can change whether people are ordering or not, but it's worth it to try to find these patterns so that you can make sure you work those times where you're going to make the most money. Tip number 12 is my biggest piece of advice to everyone, and that is to always be learning what works better. If you don't know what opportunity cost means, you should look it up because you will be dealing with opportunity cost every day while you work Grubhub. You're always going to be trying to say, okay, is this order worth it to go there? Or if I don't accept it, is a better order going to come in that's going to be less time that I can make more money? So you'll be trying to figure out how far are you willing to drive on orders, where do you want to end up at orders, and all those kind of things. In the end, in Grubhub, everyone's trying to make as much as they can in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of driving. So at the beginning, you might want to just make mental notes or physical notes about what restaurants are good and what restaurants are bad, because you're going to have certain restaurants that just take forever to do orders, and maybe you just don't want to go to those, or the order needs to be a certain amount more. It's just a lot of figuring that stuff out. This is something you'll be dealing with all the time as a Grubhub driver. Even me doing this for 3 years, I'm still tweaking my formula and finding out what areas are better than others. So those are my 12 tips to you as a new Grubhub driver, or maybe just a Grubhub driver who's looking for more tips to try to make more money. It's always a process, and good luck to you trying to figure out your area and make as much money as you can. But hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully it gave you guys some good tips that can help you get on the road and feel confident. If you guys like the video, go ahead and do the cheapest thing you can today. Tap that like button. Also subscribe to my channel. I do a video on finance every week and also just a bunch of other fun videos. But thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, stay cheap.
That's cheap. You still haven't subscribed? Oh my god, come on, what are you waiting for?